Maya Rodriguez stood in front of Lincoln Middle School and took a deep breath. The morning sun made the brick building look almost friendly, but she knew better. This place was going to be harder than any battlefield she had ever seen. She checked her prosthetic leg one more time. The metal and carbon fiber felt solid under her jeans. 3 years ago, she had lost her real leg fighting aliens on a planet millions of miles from Earth. Now she was about to face something that scared her more than any alien warrior ever had. 8th grade students. Maya walked through the front doors. Her military boots made soft clicking sounds on the polished floor. Students rushed past her in the hallway. They looked so young and full of energy. She remembered being that age once. Before the war changed everything. Mrs. Helen Barnes, the principal, was waiting for her near the office. She was a thin woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She looked like someone who had been fighting her own war for years. "Thank you for coming, Miss Rodriguez," Mrs. Barnes said. She shook Maya's hand firmly. "I have to be honest with you. We have had 6 substitute teachers quit in the past 2 months. These kids are tough." Maya nodded. "I understand, ma'am. I have dealt with tough situations before." Mrs. Barnes led her down the hallway toward the classroom. "Room 237 is your room. You will also teach 3 English classes and 1 history. Class, the students know you are military. Some of them might test you because of that." "Test me how?" Maya asked. "They do not like authority figures. Many of them come from broken homes. They act out because they feel powerless everywhere else in their lives." Mrs. Barnes stopped outside a door marked 237. "But maybe someone with your background can reach them. We are running out of options." Maya looked through the small window in the door. About 25 students sat at desks arranged in messy rows. Some were talking loudly. Others were throwing things. A few were sleeping with their heads down. None of them looked ready to learn anything. "Any advice?" Maya asked. Mrs. Barnes smiled sadly. "Try not to take anything personally, and good luck." Maya opened the door and walked into the classroom. The noise continued for a few seconds before some students noticed her. The talking got quieter, but it did not stop completely. She walked to the front of the room and stood behind the teacher's desk. Maya looked at each student for a moment. Some stared back with curious eyes. Others ignored her completely. A few looked openly hostile. "Good morning," Maya said in a clear, strong voice. "I am Miss Rodriguez. I will be your substitute teacher." A boy in the 3rd row raised his hand. He had messy brown hair and a smirk on his face. "Are you really a soldier?" "I was a Marine." Maya replied, "I served 3 tours of duty in space." The boy's smirk got bigger. "Did you kill any aliens?" Maya studied his face. She could see he was trying to shock her or make her uncomfortable. "What is your name?" "Jake Morrison," the boy said. "Well, Jake Morrison, yes, I did fight aliens. But that is not why I am here today." Jake leaned back in his chair. "Why are you here then? Could not find a real job?" Some students laughed. Maya felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice calm. "I am here to teach you English and history." "With a fake leg?" Jake pointed at her prosthetic. "How do you even walk around? Does it make robot noises?" More students laughed now. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. In the military, she would have put Jake in his place immediately. But these were children, not soldiers. She had to try a different approach. Maya walked around the desk and sat on its edge. "You want to know about my leg?" The room got quieter. Even Jake looked surprised. "I lost my real leg 3 years ago on Kepler Station. That is a space station near a star called Kepler 452. The Zephyrian Empire attacked it with everything they had. Now she had their attention. Even the students who had been sleeping lifted their heads. My squad was ordered to hold the main corridor while civilians evacuated. There were 8 of us against about 50 alien soldiers. They had better weapons and more training than we did. Girl in the front row leaned forward. What did you do? We fought, Maya said simply. For 18 hours, we held that corridor. Every time they tried to push through, we pushed back. We ran out of ammunition. We ran out of medical supplies. But we did not run out of determination. Jake had stopped smirking. What happened to your leg? An alien grenade exploded near my position. The blast threw me 15 feet and crushed my left leg. But my squad got me out of there. All 8 of us made it home. So did every civilian on that station. The classroom was completely silent now. Maya stood up and walked back to the front of the room. So yes, Jake Morrison, I have a prosthetic leg. It does not make robot noises, but it does help me walk. And it reminds me every day that I survived something most people cannot even imagine. She looked around the room again. Students were all watching her now. No one was talking or throwing things. But you know what the hardest part was? Maya continued. It was not the fighting. It was not losing my leg. It was coming home and trying to figure out how to live a normal life again. A quiet girl in the back row raised her hand. Is that why you became a teacher? Maya smiled for the first time that morning. What is your name? Emma Carter, the girl said softly. Well, Emma Carter, I became a teacher because I realized something important. Fighting aliens was easy compared to fighting for your own future. At least with aliens, you know who the enemy is. Jake raised his hand again. This time he looked serious. What do you mean? I mean that the hardest battles are not fought with guns and explosives. They are fought with books and pencils and determination. They are fought every day by people who refuse to give up on themselves. Maya picked up a piece of chalk and wrote her name on the blackboard. Her handwriting was neat and precise, like everything else about her military training. So here is the deal, she said, turning back to face the class. I survived a war. I survived losing my leg. I survived learning how to walk again. Now I am here to help you survive whatever battles you are fighting. She looked directly at Jake. And I promise you this, I will not give up on you if you do not give up on yourselves. A bell rang, signaling the end of homeroom. Students started gathering their books, but they moved more quietly than before. As they filed out of the room, several of them looked back at Maya with something that might have been respect. Jake. Morrison was the last to leave. He stopped at her desk. Miss Rodriguez? Yes, Jake? Thank you for not yelling at us. Maya nodded. Thank you for listening. After he left, Maya sat down at the teacher's desk and looked around the empty classroom. She had survived the first battle, but she knew the war was just beginning. Maya walked into Lincoln Middle School for her second week of teaching. The hallways felt different now. Students still rushed past her, but some of them nodded or said hello. Word had spread about the new substitute teacher who had fought aliens. In Space Dot, she entered room 237 and found Jake Morrison already at his desk. He looked up when she came in. Morning, Miss Rodriguez, he said. His voice was different, less challenging than before. Good morning, Jake, Maya replied. She noticed he had a black eye that was starting to turn yellow around the edges. More students filed in. Maya watched each one carefully. During her military training, she had learned to observe people and situations. She called it reconnaissance. Now she was using those same skills to understand her students. Emma Carter sat in the back corner like always. Maya had noticed that Emma never talked to other students. She ate lunch alone and walked to class alone. But Emma was smart. Her test scores were the highest in the class. She reminded Maya of the brilliant engineers who had kept their spaceships running during the war. Essential, but overlooked. Danny Lewis sat 3 rows behind Jake. He was a small, quiet boy who always wore long sleeves, even when it was hot outside. Maya had seen him flinch when other students moved too quickly near him. She recognized the signs. Danny was afraid of something or someone. The morning classes went smoothly. Maya taught English literature and had the students read a story about courage. She noticed that Jake paid attention during the discussion. Emma answered every question correctly, but spoke so quietly that other students could barely hear her. At lunchtime, Maya walked through the cafeteria. She saw Emma sitting alone at a corner table, reading a book while she ate. Danny sat by himself too, picking at his food and looking around nervously. Jake sat with a group of boys who were being loud and throwing food. Maya made a decision. She walked over to Emma's table. "Mind if I sit here?" Maya asked. Emma looked surprised. "Teachers usually eat in the teacher's lounge." "I prefer the company out here," Maya said, sitting down across from Emma. "What are you reading?" Emma showed her the cover. It was a thick science fiction novel about space exploration. "Good choice," Maya said. "I read a lot of science fiction before I actually went to space. Reality was quite different from the books." "Really? How?" Emma asked. Her eyes lit up with curiosity. "Well, the books made space travel seem glamorous. In real life, everything smells bad because air recycling systems never work perfectly. And artificial gravity makes some people sick for weeks." Emma laughed. It was the first time Maya had heard her laugh. They talked about books and space for the rest of lunch. When the bell rang, Emma packed up her things slowly. "Miss Rodriguez?" Emma said. "Thank you for sitting with me." "Nobody usually does that." "Why not?" Maya asked, though she thought she knew the answer. Emma shrugged. "I'm weird, I guess. I like reading more than talking. I know too much about random stuff. Other kids think I'm boring." Maya remembered feeling the same way when she was young. Before the military taught her that being different was often a strength, not a weakness. "Emma, during the war, the smartest people on our ship were often the quietest ones. They spent their time thinking and learning instead of just talking. Those people saved our lives more than once." Emma smiled and walked to her next class with a little more confidence in her step. That afternoon, Maya taught her history class. She was explaining World War II when an announcement came over the school's intercom system. "Attention students and staff. Due to budget cuts, the school board has voted to eliminate all arts programs effective next month. This includes music, art, and drama classes. We apologize for any inconvenience." The classroom erupted. Students started talking loudly and angrily. Maya saw real distress on their faces. "This is so unfair," shouted a girl named Lisa. "Art class is the only reason I come to school." "They can't do this," Jake said, standing up from his desk. "Music class is the best part of my day." Maya held up her hand for quiet. "What exactly are they cutting?" "Everything good," Danny said. It was the first time Maya had heard him speak loudly. "Music, art, drama. The only classes where we can actually do something we like." Maya looked around the room. These students were more upset about losing their creative classes than she had ever seen them about anything academic. "Why are they cutting these programs?" Maya asked. Emma raised her hand. "Budget problems. And they say our test scores are too low. They want us to spend more time on math and reading." Maya thought about this. During the war, morale had been just as important as weapons and supplies. Soldiers needed something to fight for, something that made them feel human. It sounded like these arts programs served the same purpose for these students. "What if we fought back?" Maya said. The room got quiet. Jake stared at her. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if we organized a response? In the military, When we faced a problem, we didn't just complain about it. We made a plan and took action. But we're just kids, Lisa said. Nobody listens to kids. Maya smiled. You might be surprised, but first we need intelligence. We need to understand exactly why they made this decision and what it would take to change their minds. Emma raised her hand again. I could research the school board policies and maybe find out what the budget actually looks like. Great, Maya said. Jake, you're good at talking to people. Could you find out how other students feel about this? Jake nodded eagerly. Definitely. A lot of kids are going to be really mad about this. Danny, you mentioned music class. How many students take music? Danny thought for a moment. About 60 kids across all grades, and they're really serious about it. Some of them want to be professional musicians someday. Maya walked to the blackboard and started writing. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to treat this like a military operation. Step 1 is gathering intelligence. Step 2 is building our forces. Step 3 is planning our attack. Attack? Emma asked nervously. Not a violent attack, Maya clarified. A strategic response. We're going to present our case to the school board in a way that's so well organized and convincing that they'll have to listen to us. For the next 30 minutes, Maya taught her students basic military strategy. She showed them how to research their opponents, organize their allies, and present their arguments logically and persuasively. By the end of class, the students had formed committees. Emma would handle research. Jake would build support among the student body. Danny would coordinate with the music and arts teachers. Other students volunteered to help with different tasks. As they packed up their books, Jake approached Maya's desk. Miss Rodriguez, do you really think this will work? Maya looked at him seriously. Jake, I've seen ordinary people do extraordinary things when they work together for something they believe in. The question is, how much do you believe in this? Jake straightened his shoulders. I believe in it a lot. Music class saved my life last year when things got really bad at home. Maya nodded. She was beginning to understand that these students weren't just fighting for art classes. They were fighting for the things that gave their lives meaning and hope. Then we'll win, Maya said simply. Because people who fight for what they love are the hardest people in the universe to defeat. The next morning, Maya arrived at school to find students already working on their mission. Emma had printed out school board minutes and budget reports. Jake was talking to groups of students in the hallway. Danny was quietly organizing a list of every student affected by the cuts. Maya smiled as she watched them work. She had taught Em something important. When faced with a problem, humans didn't just give up. They organized, they planned, they fought back, and they usually won. The big day had arrived. Maya stood outside the school board meeting room with 25 of her students. They had spent 3 weeks preparing for this moment. Each student held a folder full of research, charts, and carefully written speeches. Emma had done incredible work gathering information. She found budget reports showing that the arts programs cost less than the football team's equipment budget. She discovered test scores from other schools that proved students in arts programs actually performed better in math and reading. Jake had organized students from every grade. He collected over 300 signatures on a petition. He also found 12 students who were willing to speak at the meeting about how arts programs had helped them. Danny had worked with the music and art teachers to create a presentation showing all the achievements their programs had earned. Awards, competitions won. Students who had gotten scholarships to art schools. Maya felt proud watching her students. They looked nervous but determined. They reminded her of young soldiers before their first real battle. Remember what we practiced. Maya told them quietly. Stay calm. Stick to the facts. Be respectful but firm. You have truth on your side. Mrs. Barnes approached them in the hallway. She looked surprised to see so many students. "Miss Rodriguez, what is all this?" the principal asked. "The students are exercising their right to speak at a public meeting," Maya replied. "They have something important to say." Mrs. Barnes frowned. "I hope you're not encouraging them to cause trouble." "I'm encouraging them to be citizens," Maya said. "There's a difference." The meeting room doors opened. Maya and her students filed in with about 50 other people. Parents, teachers, and community members filled most of the seats. Maya noticed several local reporters with cameras and notebooks. The 5 school board members sat at a long table at the front of the room. They looked tired and annoyed, like people who had been having the same arguments for years. The board chairman, Mr. Roberts, called the meeting to order. He was a heavy man with gray hair and thick glasses. He read through several boring agenda items before reaching the arts program discussion. "We will now hear public comments on the proposed elimination of arts programs," Mr. Roberts said. "Each speaker has 3 minutes." Jake stood up first. Maya had helped him practice his speech dozens of times, but she could see his hands shaking as he walked to the microphone. "My name is Jake Morrison," he began. His voice was strong and clear. "I am an 8th grade student at Lincoln Middle School. Last year, I was angry all the time. I got in fights. I failed most of my classes. Then I joined the school band." Jake paused and looked directly at the board members. "Playing music gave me something to focus on besides my problems at home. It taught me discipline and teamwork. My grades improved. I stopped fighting. Music class saved my life." He continued for 2 more minutes, presenting statistics about student improvement in schools with strong arts programs. When he finished, several people in the audience clapped. Emma went next. She was so quiet that the board chairman had to ask her to speak louder, but her presentation was perfect. She showed charts proving that arts programs actually improved test scores instead of hurting them. She quoted research from universities and education experts. One by one, students told their stories. Lisa explained how art class helped her deal with her parents' divorce. Danny talked about finding his voice in music after years of being too scared to speak up. A 6th grader named Carlos described how drama class helped him overcome his fear of public speaking. Maya watched the board members' faces. Some looked bored. Others seemed annoyed. Mr. Roberts kept checking his watch. After all the students had spoken, Maya stood up. She had not planned to speak, but something inside her snapped when she saw how dismissive the board members looked. "My name is Maya Rodriguez," she said, walking to the microphone. "I am a substitute teacher at Lincoln Middle School and a veteran of the Proxima War." The room got quieter. Even the board members looked up from their papers. 3 years ago, I fought aliens who wanted to destroy everything humans had built. We won that war because we remembered what we were fighting for. We were fighting for our music, our art, our stories. We were fighting for the things that make us human." Maya looked at each board member. These students are not asking for luxury items. They are asking for the programs that teach them creativity, expression, and hope. You want to cut these programs to save money and raise test scores. But what good are high test scores if we raise a generation that cannot imagine, cannot create, cannot dream? She gestured toward her students. These kids have spent 3 weeks learning how to research, organize, and present their ideas. They have shown more leadership and dedication than many adults I know. They have proven that arts programs do not hurt academic achievement. They enhance it. Maya's voice grew stronger. You have a choice tonight. You can listen to these young people who have done their homework and presented their case with intelligence and respect. Or you can ignore them and prove that their voices do not matter. She paused. But I warn you, these students have learned something important over the past few weeks. They have learned that they have power when they work together. If you ignore them tonight, they will not just disappear. They will keep fighting. Maya returned to her seat. The students looked at her with admiration. Even some of the adults in the audience nodded approvingly. The board members discussed the issue for 20 minutes. They talked about budgets and test scores and state requirements. They barely mentioned anything the students had said. Finally, Mr. Roberts announced their decision. After careful consideration, the board has voted to proceed with the elimination of arts programs. The motion passes 4-1. The room erupted. Students started crying. Parents shouted angrily. Maya felt sick to her stomach. Her students had done everything right, and it had not mattered. Jake stood up, his face red with anger. This is not fair. You did not even listen to us. Young man, sit down, Mr. Roberts said sternly. The decision has been made. Maya put her hand on Jake's shoulder. It's okay, she whispered. This is not over. As people filed out of the meeting room, Maya's students gathered around her. Many of them were crying. They looked defeated and betrayed. I'm sorry, Emma said quietly. All that work for nothing. It was not for nothing, Maya replied firmly. You learned how to fight for what you believe in. That lesson will last your whole lives. But even as she said it, Maya felt like she had failed them. She had taught them to believe in the system, and the system had let them down. The next morning, at school, everything was different. Jake was angry and defiant again. Emma went back to sitting alone and barely speaking. Danny stopped coming to class altogether. Maya felt like she was back at square one, except now her students did not trust her anymore. They had followed her into battle and gotten crushed. She sat in her empty classroom during lunch, wondering if she had made everything worse. Through the window, she could see students in the courtyard. They looked defeated and hopeless. Maya thought about giving up. Maybe she was not cut out for this job. Maybe she should go back to the military, where the rules made sense and effort was rewarded. Then her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from a number she did not recognize. Saw the news about your students. They were amazing. How can I help? More messages followed, then phone calls. Local veterans organizations wanted to support the students. Community groups offered donations. Parents from other schools demanded to know why their districts were also cutting arts programs. Maya realized something was happening. The students' presentation had been recorded by the local news. The video was spreading on social media. People were sharing it with messages like, "These kids give me hope, and why are we not listening to our children?" By the end of the day, Maya had received dozens of calls and messages. A local business owner wanted to sponsor the music program. A retired art teacher offered to volunteer. A parent started an online fundraising campaign. Maya smiled for the first time since the meeting. Her students had lost the battle, but they might still win the war. The greatest victories, she remembered, often came after the most crushing defeats. 2 weeks after the school board meeting, Maya walked into her classroom to find it full of reporters and camera crews. Jake Morrison stood at the front of the room with a huge smile on his face. "Miss Rodriguez," Jake called out, "look at this." He held up a newspaper with the headline, "Middle School Students Fight for Arts Programs." Below, it was a large photo of Emma presenting her research to the school board. "We're famous," Emma said, grinning from ear to ear. It was the biggest smile Maya had ever seen on the quiet girl's face. Maya looked around the crowded room. Reporter from the local television station was interviewing Danny about his music class. A newspaper photographer was taking pictures of the students' research charts that still hung on the walls. "What is all this?" Maya asked. "The video of our presentation went viral," Jake explained. "It has been shared over 50,000 times." People all over the country are talking about it. A reporter approached Maya with a microphone. Miss Rodriguez, I'm Beth Coleman from Channel 7 News. Can you tell us how you prepared these students for their presentation? Maya felt uncomfortable with all the attention. The students did all the work themselves. I just taught them some basic organization skills. Military organization skills, Jake corrected proudly. She taught us to fight like soldiers. The reporter's eyes lit up. Can you explain what you mean by that? Maya thought carefully before answering. In the military, we learn that most battles are won before the fighting starts. Good intelligence, careful planning, and teamwork matter more than weapons. These students used those same principles to present their case. Over the next hour, Maya watched her students answer questions with confidence and intelligence. They explained their research clearly. They talked about why arts programs mattered to them personally. They stayed calm and professional, even when reporters asked difficult questions. Emma was interviewed by 3 different news outlets. Shy girl who used to whisper her answers was now speaking clearly and confidently about education policy. Maya felt proud watching her bloom. Benny had stopped hiding in the back corner. He was demonstrating his trumpet playing for a music magazine reporter. His music teacher, Mrs. Foster, stood beside him with tears in her eyes. I thought I was going to lose all my students, Mrs. Foster told Maya quietly. Some of these kids have real talent. Danny could get a scholarship to a music school someday. After the reporters left, Maya's students gathered around her desk. They were all talking excitedly about the interviews and the attention their story was getting. Miss Rodriguez, Emma said, my mom showed me the online fundraising page. People have donated over $15,000 already. 15,000? Maya repeated. That was more money than the entire arts program budget. Jake nodded enthusiastically. And 3 local businesses want to sponsor different programs. The music store downtown is offering free instrument repairs. The art supply store wants to donate materials. Maya felt amazed by how quickly things had changed. 2 weeks ago, these students had felt powerless and defeated. Now they were inspiring people across the country. Her phone rang. It was Mrs. Barnes. Maya, I need you to bring your students to the principal's office right away, Mrs. Barnes said. Her voice sounded strange. Maya led her students down the hallway. They were still chattering excitedly about all the media attention. When they reached the office, Maya saw something that made her stop in surprise. All 5 school board members were sitting in chairs around Mrs. Barnes' office. Mr. Roberts, the chairman, stood up when they entered. Miss Rodriguez, students, he said formally. Thank you for coming. Maya noticed that Mr. Roberts looked uncomfortable. The other board members avoided making eye contact with the students. We have called this meeting, Mr. Roberts continued, to discuss the arts program situation. Jake stepped forward. Are you going to listen to us this time? Mr. Roberts cleared his throat. Jake, isn't it? Yes, we are prepared to listen. The school board has received over 2,000 phone calls and emails in the past 2 weeks. The community response has been overwhelming. Emma raised her hand politely. Does that mean you might change your decision? It means, said board member Mrs. Patterson, that we may have made our original decision too hastily. We did not fully consider the community impact. Maya felt a spark of hope, but tried not to show it. She had learned not to celebrate until the battle was completely won. Mr. Roberts pulled out a folder. We have reviewed your presentation materials again. We also consulted with education experts from the state university. They confirmed that your research was accurate. He paused and looked directly at the students. We also reviewed the fundraising efforts that have sprung up in response to your campaign. Between community donations and business sponsorships, there is now enough money to fund the arts programs for 3 full years. Annie's eyes widened. Does that mean? It means, Mr. Roberts said, that the school board voted yesterday to restore all arts programs effective immediately. The office erupted in cheers. Jake pumped his fist in the air. Emma started crying happy tears. Danny hugged his trumpet case like it was his best friend. Maya felt a surge of pride and relief. Her students had done it. They had actually won. Mrs. Patterson spoke up. Students, we owe you an apology. You presented a well-researched, professional case, and we did not give it the consideration it deserved. You have taught us an important lesson about listening to our community. Over the following weeks, Maya watched her students transform completely. Jake was elected student body president and started organizing other student campaigns. Emma joined the debate team and discovered she loved public speaking. Danny performed a solo at the spring concert that brought the audience to their feet. The story of their victory spread beyond their small town. Other student groups contacted them for advice on fighting budget cuts. Maya's students became mentors to kids in other schools who were facing similar battles. On the last day of school, Maya stood in front of her classroom one final time as a substitute teacher. Mrs. Barnes had offered her a permanent position, and Maya accepted. Before you leave for summer vacation, Maya told her students, I want you to remember something important. The room got quiet. These same students who had been throwing paper airplanes and ignoring her 4 months ago now hung on her every word. You have learned that your voices matter. You have learned that you can make a difference when you work together. You have learned that losing one battle does not mean losing the war. Maya walked around the classroom, looking at each student. Most importantly, you have learned that you have power. Not the kind of power that comes from weapons or force, but the power that comes from knowledge, determination, and caring about something bigger than yourselves. Jake raised his hand. Miss Rodriguez, what's our next mission? Maya smiled. Your next mission is high school. And after that, college. And after that, whatever you choose to do with your lives. But remember what you learned here. Remember that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they refuse to give up. As the final bell rang and students rushed out for summer vacation, Emma lingered behind. Miss Rodriguez, she said quietly, thank you for teaching us how to fight. Maya thought about her answer carefully. Emma, I didn't teach you how to fight. I taught you how to win. There's a big difference. After all the students left, Maya sat alone in her classroom. She looked out the window at the empty school courtyard and thought about the past few months. She had come to this school thinking she was trading one battlefield for another. Instead, she had discovered that the most important battles were not fought against enemies, but for the people and things you love. Maya adjusted her prosthetic leg and started packing up her desk. Tomorrow she would start preparing for next year's students. She had learned something important too. The greatest victories were not about defeating others, but about helping others discover their own strength. In the end, that was what made humans special. They did not just fight to survive. They fought to help each other thrive.